Shortly after recording this video, Gript Media published an article indicating that the NCCA had removed the reference to what is said in the group/class stays in the group from their guidance on what makes a safe RSE SPHE classroom. Checking the link from the SPHE portal at Curriculum Online, we could see that this is now the case. This change, of course, is to be welcomed. However, we still have the issue of the school books, which still contain class contracts with sign-off sections within them. If just searching the web rather than going through the portal, you can still find a reference to the old document that contains the notion of a secrecy pact. Based on this, we chose not to re-record the podcast in order to assure awareness for this issue, but making it clear up front that a change does appear to be in the works, and we would definitely welcome that. Okay, let's get on with the original recording.
Good evening, Eugene. How are you?
I'm great, Jana. How are you tonight?
Great. Excellent. We have a lot to cover. So for people who are just tuning in for the first time, my name is Jana London, founder of the Natural Women's Council, and Eugene Garvin does all of our research for the Natural Women's Council and the groups we work with, and he's a retired director of engineering. So tonight we are going to cover something that's really directly related to the Irish education system, and probably also very similar to what's happening in other countries across the West. And this is the subversion of parental rights. We look at everything happening in the curriculum that we've been concerned about, the highly sexual content, the indoctrination and many other things. And it really comes down to a subversion of parental rights. So I'll turn it over to Eugene, to kick that off.
Yeah, thanks, Jana. So really, we're going to talk about this issue, things like the visibility, secrecy, and also the dumbing down of the curriculum, which is kind of a consequence of some of the things that are going on. So just a reminder for everybody on the applicable Irish legislation and the rights that are enshrined in that for parents. So this is here for reference. And again, we'll put a link in the description to the relevant pieces. And it's the first sections there that are the most concerning. Even the Children's First Act is a concern in terms of some of the content that might be in the curriculum as well. So let's get into it. So the first 2 points we want to make is the textbooks and notebooks stay in the school. This specifically for SPHE, and could be for some of the other subjects as well, but particularly for SPHE, you will not see the textbook coming home in the bag. So most parents will have no visibility to the textbook. You can request your school to find out what books are being used. And as we've kind of indicated in other videos, right now those books are not fit for purpose. They were finalized before the curriculum was finalized. So they contain content which they should not contain, which is not in the curriculum. So if you're in a Catholic school, you should not be using them. The class should not be using them. Should be using the Living Love resources. And in any other school, you should be using the online resources that are available. And that's a recommendation that comes from the ASTI as well. And we cover that in a separate video. So this is an issue. So parents need to get access to the books so they can review them and see the suitability of those books.
And Eugene, one thing just to note is since we've done these campaigns, particularly since the whistleblower interview, which has close to 1 million hits across all platforms, we've seen social media and parent WhatsApp groups absolutely flooded with parents sharing what they found in their children's school bag for books. We've seen books and pages that we didn't even know were there. So we urge all parents to request to see all the books your children have access to at school, and fair play to the parents who have done that.
Yeah. And I think the other part, Jan, I guess is, and it's happened, if you do come across books which we haven't covered, please let us know. Please take some photographs of the cover of the book and any of the offending pages and shoot it into us. You'll get the contact information on the Natural Women's Council website. And we'll definitely follow up, and we will cover any other offending books in future videos. So we need to share this. Parents need to know. The other issue, and it's the fact that parents aren't going to have visibility, is this whole notion of class contracts and secrecy pacts. And Johnny, you covered a full video on this topic before, and here's an example of one of them. And it's basically saying what's shared in the class stays in the class. So, and this is from one of the books, but the same appears in all the books in slightly different forms. They all have this class contract, and they request that the child actually signs the class contract.
Mhm.
And another horrifying thing, and something to be aware of, I've spoken to a mother who has a child actually in primary school, and they've come home saying, when asked what they did in school, that it was a secret in primary school. I think that's enough to terrify any parent to start hearing a child coming back and saying that. So,
Yeah, it's something, Eugene, that from a
yeah,
young age, children should be taught, and they used to be taught, never keep a secret from your parents,
no,
because children
no,
who kept secrets were often victims of abuse and never came forward to their parents. So,
yeah,
to ask a child in class to keep a secret from their parents is absolutely not only a subversion of the parental rights, but it breaks the trust down between parent and child. Because if my young children were taught, don't tell your mommy, that breaks down the trust in their minds. They're thinking, gosh, I can't tell my mommy everything or my daddy everything. And it really puts the wedge between parent and child. And also it puts that vulnerable child at risk. So if they ever were asked by someone who was a, perpetrator of abuse or grooming a child, and they said, can you keep a secret? Well, the child would think, well, I was asked in school to keep a secret, so yes, I can. And it really puts vulnerable children in serious harm and risk of abuse. So no child, whether you're on whatever side of the political spectrum you're on, whether you're on the left, the
yeah,
right, the center,
doesn't matter.
whether you're Christian, atheist, it doesn't matter. Every responsible parent should agree that children should not be asked to keep a secret from their parents.
Yeah, 100%. So alarm bells, I think, with regard to this particular issue. So this needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we also brought up the whole issue of the books themselves, I guess, Jana, and who is responsible for the books. And this is just a kind of a reminder. These books don't come home, right? So we don't know. Now, if they do come home and you find some issue with the books, the problem we have is that the Department of Education and the NCCA will not take responsibility. They will send you to the publisher. They'll
Mm-hmm.
send an individual parent. Now, how successful do you think you're going to be on your own going to a publisher? So this is a dereliction, I think, of the responsibility of the department.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a particular one that we need to be asking from a department perspective. They need to take ownership for the books. There needs to be a sign-off process on the books, that the books are fit for purpose, and that a teacher in a school knows that when they select an approved book, that book is in line with the curriculum. That's not happening at this present time. This is not acceptable.
It's a
So,
huge risk, Eugene, because there's so many
yeah,
publishers, and you could have what Norma
yeah,
Foley and the NCCA are saying is it's up to the publisher. So you could have a publisher who may not have the same, morals or ethics or political views or views on this sexuality,
yeah,
etc., as the parent, and a publisher could go rogue and put whatever they want in our children's books. And Norma Foley and the NCCA have zero accountability, and our children are being harmed because of this. So for that reason, we have asked Norma Foley to resign from her position. She has no control over what's gone on into the classroom. Saying she doesn't oversee that is just her position is untenable.
yeah. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, that you've got this book too. That
Mm-hmm.
contains a page talking about mutual masturbation. Like, how is it? How is that in the curriculum in any way, shape, or form? So you've been warned. Who is responsible for the books? We need to lobby our politicians. The ownership needs to go back to where it resides with the department.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one, this whole school cross-curriculum approach. So this has been advocated across a number of places. This was actually advocated in the original address that Dr. Aoife Neary from Limerick, Limerick University made when she was actually talking to the Dáil Committee. She talked about the whole school approach. It appears in a number of other documents, in a HSE document. You see it everywhere. This is not acceptable because they're bringing this subject matter from SPHE, and they're bringing that into every other subject, which means a parent who wants to opt out of SPHE, they basically have to opt out of every subject because there's no way you can guarantee. And we do have an example here. This is an example that came to us from one of our subscribers on YouTube. Sent us this. They sent this link here. It's one of the English books. This is an English textbook, Louder Than Words. And you can see that there's content from Tenny in here on non-binary identities. And it even talks about the children having to deliver a speech at a school assembly talking about transgender and non-binary identities. and then advocating for a gender neutral bathroom.
Forget that if they don't become the ally and don't believe in the non-binary, the transgender, and the 52 genders, they're not nice. So that little reminder on the bottom right, next to that little 6 rainbow, which is not a real rainbow, the 6 rainbow flag, be kind. Keep pushing that in the kid's mind. Be kind, be kind. If you don't do this, you're not inclusive. You're a bully. And it's not inclusive to the children who believe in biology there are only 2 sexes and you cannot change them.
Yeah. So this is a corruption of the curriculum, and it's a subversion of the parental right to opt
Absolutely.
out. Yeah. So this is not acceptable. This needs to be taken out. Every single one of these books needs to be taken out of the curriculum that has content like this. So one of the things we would like to call for, if you do see books, it could be a geography book, it could be a maths book, it could be something else. And if it has content like this, please reach out to us on the Natural Women's Council website, reach out to us on X, and we will follow up and let other parents and share this with other subscribers here and any of our followers. This is really serious because parents could be living in a false sort of fool's paradise, if I got use that term, that they're opting out of the SPHE and they think they're okay, but they don't realize that their children are getting exposed to all the same material in their English class, their geography class, whatever it is. So here's a warning flag.
One thing, Eugene, to note is on the naturalwomen'scouncil.ie website under campaigns, schools and curriculum, our opt-out letter opts them out of, we knew this potentially would be coming down the road, so rather than opt them out of that subject, SPHE, it's opting them out of different topics like the pronouns, LGBTQI+, da 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 da. But the problem is now it's gone to the next level where, as you said, you'd have to take your child completely out of the school for the full day because this is going to be in English, it's going to be in math, it's going to be in history, it's everywhere. So very hard for the teacher to say, oh, we're going to cover Tenny's life hacks on non-binary in the English class. So, oh, Johnny, you need to step out for this. I mean, for a teacher to keep track of all the kids that are opting out of all this stuff, it'd be chopping and changing all day. It would be nearly impossible.
Yeah. And the whole school approach is actually goes beyond the classroom. So it goes to every activity in the school. So as long as the child is past the school gate, the whole school approach means they could be exposed to any of this. There could be a stand-up week with belong to or shout out. There could be something else going on in the school that's not in the actual classroom, but it's just happening in the school. So that's the whole school approach. It's massive, the scope. So the next bullet is kind of an extension of this. It's bringing in other political themes, social justice themes, for example, Black Lives Matter, essentially left-wing activism, if I call it that, which includes things like climate and sustainability. So this can come into any subject. Any subject.
One parent shared a book about teaching about eating bugs for protein, and I'm quite certain that was in Ireland, but we need to get our hands on that book. I did see a book in a library abroad called Beetles for Breakfast, and that was promoting the eating of bugs rather than beef or proper food. Bugs are pathogenic. We shouldn't be eating bugs. So that's the type of thing that could make its way into our child's classroom.
Correct. Yeah. And we will be doing another video on this particular issue in the context of the primary curriculum. So that's another video we'll be covering. So watch out for that one because it's very relevant. This point is very relevant to that curriculum. The other issue we have here is the dumbing down of the curriculum. So because you're expanding subjects, the well-being and CSPE, and you're also bringing these themes into the entire curriculum. So, you know, when you bring in one thing, you have to take something else out, or you have to reduce the amount of time on the other subjects because of this. The effect of that is the dumbing down of the curriculum. In some cases, it means certain subjects are no longer available in a school. In other cases, it just means the amount of subject time that you spend on your mathematics or your core English or Irish or whatever it is reduced because part of it has been taken up by covering the social justice themes that have been injected. So it's taking from your curriculum. It's a dumbing down. That lost time is gone. And the school day hasn't changed. So there's a net loss here. The last bullet point we hear is this whole notion of critical thinking. So critical thinking in its strictest sense is apolitical. There's no political dimension to it whatsoever. However, it's been replaced by a thing called critical theory, Marxist critical theory. And this is the whole notion of victimhood and oppression, sources of power and oppression. There's a term for this. It's called critical pedagogy. It's the way of teaching. And this way of teaching can be applied to every single subject. So you can't opt out from it. So again, it's a way of dumbing down, reducing the effectiveness of your education, replacing it with something else, and it's also replacing it with themes and subject matter that parents may not be comfortable with, and it's all from this Marxist critical theory viewpoint. So you should be very concerned about this. And let me give you an example, just in case you don't think this is real. We're looking at the online curriculum here. So we've gone into one of the curriculum documents that is available online, recommended by the ASTI. So the ASTI recommends you use the online SPHE material, not the books. But still, the online material is laced with this critical theory and critical pedagogy. So if you look at some of the first paragraph on the left there, you can see it through the use of critical and participative pedagogies. You can see the issues here, and if you look at lower down there, they use this term praxis and talk about critical reflection. Praxis is a Marxist term. It's basically putting your theory into practice. That's what it kind of stands for. And again, that critical reflection, the word critical there is the Marxian meaning of critical. So it's based on critical theory. It's looking again on power relations, sources of oppression, etc. So this stuff is laced within the curriculum. It's in language that most people won't get. Most people will look at this and say, oh, that looks pretty reasonable. I'm good with that. And you won't see these words and what these words actually mean. And unfortunately, the curriculum has been corrupted with this.
Extra hours teaching the social justice and the SPHE and all of that indoctrination is increased. So the other ones decrease. But something else to note for anyone who hasn't listened to us discuss this before is it was flagged to us by a mother in the Natural Women's Council in Waterford that there was a notification that some of the core subjects are now moved to optional. And the core subjects that are moving to optional in many schools are things like science, geography, business studies, home economics, and some of the arts. Now, why would they move science to optional? Because science is fact. Science is critical thinking. They don't want children to learn facts and critical thinking.
So again, I'll give you an example here from the DCU course. In the middle there, you can see the underpinning framework for this module is that of critical and creative pedagogy. Critical pedagogy, Paulo Freire, the Frankfurt School. That's where that's coming from. So here it is.
The whistleblower teacher on the interview mentioned that Paulo Freire was discussed on the DCU course, and the teachers were asked to consider how they can bring the Paulo Freire learnings or approaches into the classroom. And Paulo Freire, again, believes that politics and education can't be separated. He's a known Marxist. And here we go, how to bring this Marxism into the classroom. It's right there in black and white for us to see.
Yeah. Yep. So when you see that magic word critical, it's in the context of Marxist critical pedagogy, critical thinking, or critical theory, I should say, not the apolitical version of critical theory, which is based on analysis, objective analysis, etc. So that is a concern. So the immediate actions we want to say from people. So we do have an online petition at the moment based on that whistleblower video. So we would ask people to go into that. And we believe that the current SPHE curriculum right now needs to be suspended pending a review, and that the teacher training that's going on, again, needs to be suspended pending investigation and review. We need to keep activist NGOs from influencing the schools and keep them out of the schools. The removal of teaching of transgender ideologies or any sort of postmodern ideologies that are not grounded in reality. They need to be taken out. There's no room for that in schools. These are colonizing our schools now, and they're decolonizing real education. That's the problem. You can't put one thing in without taking something else out. And we have a separate video, we'll be talking about an update on the primary curriculum, which is of a huge concern with the level of decolonization that's going on and colonization that's going on in that particular curriculum. So we'll be talking about that in another video. So the last point here is withdrawing any textbooks, library books, or other resources that contain explicitly sexual material or inappropriate material need to be taken out. And anything that's based on ideologies or postmodern theories is not appropriate for the schoolroom. That's kind of it, Jana. That's just, it's to flag this. There's a subversion of parental rights, because these things are subverting the rights that the parents have under the Constitution and under the Education Act. And parents need to become aware of it, highlight it, and action needs to be taken to get everything back in line.
Absolutely. And, people are, overwhelmed with what's happening, and it's happening so fast. It's happening without any consultation with us. We don't give our permission to have our children to be indoctrinated in such ways or sexualized. So people always ask, okay, well, what can we do? And again, go to the naturalwomenscouncil.ie website, sign the petition, also send the letter. The letter has the 9 points of concern as well as these 5 actions. Pressure your TD. It's a great time now to pressure the TD, because they're all out there sniffing around for votes. Well, this should be a really hot election topic. Is we should not be voting anyone in who's not going to stand up for the children and for the next generation in Ireland. And what else can we do is, I think, a lot of people we've seen around the social media space and our WhatsApp groups, et cetera, is saying someone needs to take a case. So there has to be a case taken now through the court system, whatever remnants are left of a fair system or an ethical system, I don't know, but someone's going to have to take a case because children are harmed. This is also unconstitutional. So we need to call on our senators to say this is actually in violation of Article 42 in the Constitution. We are the primary educators. This is in violation of the Education Act of 1998, Section 9D, because this is supposed to be done in consultation with the parents. It's in violation of our own laws. This cannot happen. So we call on the senators and the TDs to put a stop to it, because it is unconstitutional. It's a serious overreach, a serious subversion of parental rights, and we have to just say no.
Yeah. And we are calling for an actual review of this with an official ADAL committee or a panel of investigation, because we need to find out, how did this happen? Who caused this to happen?
This has to happen. We're going to demand that it happens, and we won't be happy until it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's a good way to conclude tonight. So have a great night.